Okay, so I just wanted to say something, I guess. I wanted to say something about there's that big movement online. Everybody keeps talking about it. Everybody is from Africa in origins. And I just wanted to say, from my point of view, that I'm not fully African. And I don't know, it gets really exhausting to have to be around people who really want to prove that and really want to have everybody see things from that point of view and see that we're all just one people. It gets really exhausting and it gets really tiring um, and frustrating because light skinned people like me, um, we're not from Africa. Okay. I'm not from Africa. I am not. And there's nobody who could really prove that. Um, I don't really care. Honestly, in my opinion, I don't really care if you find some light skinned people with my skin tone. I live in America, Northern America, and I don't really care if you find some people there who look sort of my skin tone. Um, I know my genealogy, and that's not where I come from. Not with the majority of my bloodline, just to be exact. Okay, so I do things in my life to make myself healthy. I think that it's healthier um, for a person who looks like me and who's just never going to have melanin. Melanin is actually in your skin, it's stuck there, and uh, and I I'm not going to become any other race, right? I'm not going to become any other race ever anytime soon. I'm stuck with my dad's. In case people don't really know or believe in that, this is also a very very debatable thing that human beings are born with the majority of their bloodline from their dad. It's very debatable, and some people might like it that way and they might accept it, or and they might not. Some people might not. I accept that because I cannot stop looking at my dad every time I look at myself in some areas of my body, and I've seen my dad so much. And my mom, on the other hand, my mom has she has actual melanin on her, and that did not come out on me. I've never had melanin show up anywhere. Um, so I do have a little texture in my hair, but that doesn't cover full as passing as an African person, which is everything I heard about her as a person, a black person. Everything I heard about her and her bloodline, for where she came from and how she arrived in the American states. Um, so otherwise, my father he's lighter than me typically, usually he's lighter than me, and he has also what I just noticed a couple years ago, he has straight hair and bone straight. So when I didn't understand what was happening, I just saw my mom, and I was really proud of her background and everything, and I thought I was going to Africa uh, for my whole life. Yeah, I thought that my whole life. And yeah, I thought that. And until I started seeing other indigenous people, and I started seeing that, yeah, the rumors were really true, that there were and there have been, and then you just see a regular Mexican every single time you turn around, basically, and you're like, wait a minute, yeah, you're like, wait a minute, oh yeah. So it was really confusing for me, because I love both of my parents equally. I mean, they're not really perfect people, but you just appreciate them and love them and all that stuff. And so yeah, my part of my mom's background was always really, we have to go back to Africa and we have to regain everything for Africa and African um, history. Whereas my dad, he's a very more quiet person, and Also, his brothers have straight hair, and I never even noticed. It was really funny. It's actually really, really funny that I didn't notice. I never really paid that much attention. I was like, oh, so yeah, black people, we just all look like this, right? And my dad, he was a very messed up person. Um, his entire life, he was a very weird person. Just because if you don't understand Native American background and history, if you don't understand what happened to the indigenous people here, um, you're never going to understand why I assume a lot of things, why he acted and why he always has acted certain ways. And well, I can go into it really briefly because I think I want to post about it a couple places. So Native Americans everywhere upon the arrival of the Europeans, just like in Africa. If you pay attention to African history too, upon the arrival in 1400s or so, um, they came in and their original jobs were they dressed like the police. And I've seen pictures of this. I've heard this from elder stories, and they were the police. They used to round up the kids from the Native American communities, and they would steal them, right? So Donald Trump was actually doing this at the border, and he had made commands to actually do this type of stuff when he was doing his stuff. All right. So actually, there's a thing called the reform schools, and that is something that they stole and pushed. Well, they stole. They killed the parents, the Native American parents. I never met my dad's parents, so I know I'm so messed up about everything. And my my grandfather, my black, when I just told you guys that you get most of your bloodline from your dad. My grandmother looked like Marie Laveau, my mom's mom, and I met her, I knew her my whole life, and she was actually into voodoo and stuff, and it was really cool stuff to me. So yeah, but also her dad was a fully skinned, a black skinned guy, and of course he was African. Obviously, he was from Africa, right? And he I never met him because supposedly he got murdered and he was living in the South. That was something I came up with because I didn't know how to, think about it. So I assumed that he got murdered just like most of the other dark skinned people, black people. And because my grandmother told me that this grandmother told me that she was living in Texas, and she was always living in Texas and Louisiana for most of her life. So right, and right, so yeah, the reform schools. I leave some pictures of what was happening and what everybody and everything looked like, and these are from a lot of elders. All these stories, and there are some Mexican families and Native American families who keep archives and stuff on this stuff. It is horrible. I see a demon in a couple of pictures, and that was a trend for me for years because I was doing a lot of research. My dad, he has been an alcoholic and he has been a lot of things over his whole life, so he can't articulate and tell me things. His sisters actually told me that yes, they confirmed that we're different looking tribes of Native Americans with some similar features, but we're not exactly like that. And I have accepted that, and I'm really fine with that. And also, yes, I'm going to go back to the reform schools. The reform schools stole um, the Catholics, um, the Caucasian Catholics stole away the people, the children, and they forced them to conform to Christianity. Um, and a lot of them were abused and murdered along the way. The children, and a lot of them didn't make it. And my dad was an actual survivor, and that's how I understand my bloodline. And it's really messing with me because like I go online and stuff like that, and I don't like people don't understand things, and they're just like, oh yeah, they seem to bring up a lot of stuff, and they're not really paying attention to a lot of stuff that our histories are that's important to our histories and stuff like that. And well, my particular history, and it bothers me that people don't acknowledge me as a tribes person and an indigenous person. It bothers me because I like to be respected as that, and I actually do like to be respected, and it hurts me so bad that people don't recognize that or acknowledge that or care really, and that's what really messes with me. I have a lot of respect for my mom's side and the African side, and I have a lot of connection and respect for that. But I don't see myself going to Africa because um, it's a very deep, um, deep. Uh, it's very deep where I don't identify as African. Um, I don't, and I see a lot of potential here um, for indigenous people to really rebuild and to regain a lot of stuff. Um, and I see the same for Africa, but like I just explained, I don't feel like I'm that much African, and I honestly I think that it's a fair thing to say, hey, you need to be dark skinned and you need to have melanin, and that's cool, right? So I also want to explain in this segment that Native Americans have we have our own black people, and they've right. So the facts for this story, we have our own in the uh we have our own, and like I want to mention, the only reason you're going to be a black melanated person is if you have this certain terrain which you were evolved in for billions of years, correct? And um that terrain has to be similar to Africa. So my assumption is that um right, I'm not that, and um African people have a very specific things that go down for them to appear such as how they are. And I'm not that educated on that. I'm not, because I don't spend time in that those areas, and that's not my business that much. And I shouldn't be trying to like study people. That's just weird, like that much. And but I have what I have, my understanding, for I have the understanding that I have um, about African people, and they are indigenous to. So the terrains create the people, right, and the environments. So you have Africa, and where else people look like that? In America itself, you have the South, and that has to be somewhere kind of far, in my opinion, from like Texas area, because you have light skinned people and light skinned natives who exist. Now, what I can say is that Mexico has the Amazon, and the Amazon holds native people who have never lived anywhere out of the Amazon. They're indigenous tribes, forest tribes, and those people have to be indigenous to that area. So if you're looking for black people, those are not black people. Those are straight haired Mexican looking people. Honestly, you have to see them. They just got into a big old fight with um, um, some people who were trying to do too much logging and stuff like that, and they got into a big fight. What I've seen on some news coverage, and so you can just take things from there. So where are the black people located? The native black people, I would just say the more southern than that area. So you have Mexico, and it just keeps on going. You have to keep going south. And I don't know where that is, but I've seen pictures actually. I've seen there's an extremely dark skinned melanated girl who didn't look like she was really colonized. She was just hanging out, and somebody said I was looking through some forum, and somebody had a picture of that, and I believe it. I do believe it. Actually, I've never even like I'm telling you, every black person I've ever met in my life, um, they were African descent. Yeah, and they, you know, that's all I know. But do I believe it? But have I ever really seen or witnessed somebody who I just knew was native and a black person? No, what looks like an African person. So I just wish people would stop getting it confused um, that we all are exactly the same and we're all from the same spaces. And I think that is very, very weird that some black people are actually claiming that they're Russian descent and that they are from Russia. That's not really factual based because you don't look like the terrain in a sense, more of a sense. Um, you don't look, you cannot evolve in a space and in a place where um, you can't evolve in a space and in a place and you can't be from there. Um, like I was just using an example of the Amazon people. They look like they're from there and yeah, the heated terrain of Africa um tells you that yes, you're dark skinned because you had evolved there forever. You had evolved there forever, correct? And it's fine to say, hey, we were the first Adam and Eve, and we're not mad at that. Nobody's mad at that. And um, but I don't think people should be trying to push that on everybody. That's not everybody's belief. I'm sorry, but I've been around some people. Like I said, I've done some research on tribes people, and that story is completely not what these people